Good evening, welcome to the July 6th Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Teresa, if you would call the roll.
Councilwoman Flood. Here. Councilwoman Standard. Here. Councilmember Rowley.
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowitz. Here. Supervisor Barrett.
Here, entertain a motion to approve town board meeting minutes of June 14th and 21st.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Wallowitz, second by Mrs. Standard. Discussion.
Councilwoman Flood.
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard.
Yes.
Councilman Morelli.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett.
Yes. Communications and announcements, just a couple of quick things here. I want to thank so many people to thank as far as the successful July 4th festivities that we just had on Sunday, and the whole day went without a hitch. The weather turned out very, very good. It was cool as opposed to a hot, sticky July day. And the rain held off, which was great. It was very iffy. The forecast was going into the day. So, but everything from the parade to the opening ceremonies to the entertainment and the fireworks show was just went terrific. So I do want to thank everybody that was involved with the setup and cleanup, planning, coordination. It's a team effort here at the town. The Buildings and Grounds Department was, after a very late Sunday into Monday morning, left for a few hours, came back to make sure that the common was cleaned up. Before they left Sunday or early Monday morning, all of the trash had been emptied, but there was the major trash receptacles. There was still a good deal of trash around the common that needed to be picked up. So they did that and got all the equipment together that needs to be returned, that we rent for the day. So just an incredible effort and a great day. So one that I know a lot of people enjoyed in the town. The crowd on the parade route was large, and as always, the crowd for the fireworks as we got into the late afternoon, early evening, the crowd grew rapidly and was very large for the fireworks show. So again, thank you to everybody, all the groups, community groups who assist in different facets of the entire day. It was a great celebration of our country's birthday and a tremendous community event, especially following the last year and a half, where celebrations of that type weren't occurring at all. Last year we had the parade. We did not have anything else. It was a strange feeling. We had the parade, then everybody went home pretty much. Didn't have the food trucks or the activities for the kids or the bands or the fireworks. None of that occurred. So it was just nice to get back to a sense of normalcy. Second, just a reminder, the town's Learn to Swim program is back this year. And we just had a class, water safety instructor class, which was given to interested guards. It's a higher certification that places them in the position of being able to be an instructor for youngsters interested in the Learn to Swim program. So we have 2 sessions, which is fantastic. We're able to hold 2 sessions this year, 2 weeks apiece, and there's 3 age groups each day. So we thankfully have a number of dedicated guards, not only working at the pool each day, but that were willing to be water safety instructors, so we can offer this program. Right now, it's that middle age group, 5 to 8 is the middle age group, and that's a very popular time slot and age group. So I know one of those for one session already started a wait list, but there are still some space available in the other age groups. So if my recommendation would be to get online and register as soon as possible. And if you have any questions, you can certainly call the Parks and Recreation office or my office, and we can answer any questions that you might have. We're fortunate to have and I mentioned this at the last meeting, a new Learn to Swim instructor, director, I should say, Alyssa DeFabio, who's a coach over at Shen, swimming coach. And she also has experience providing swimming lessons. So definitely a good find for us, and we appreciate her coming on board. Thirdly, we received correspondence from the town of Colony regarding the Stony Creek Reservoir RFPs. They've decided to pull the RFPs. They're no longer in play. We had planned, in conjunction with our partner, Open Space Institute, we plan to submit a response to their RFP for the sale of the Stony Creek Reservoir. But as of right now, that plan is on hold until Colony figures out where they want to go with the next step of the process. So at this point, we're just awaiting the next steps. But they just sent out short correspondence and just said, we're pulling the RFPs, and there'll be no further action until they do some more work on their end. So it'll be interesting to see where this process goes. 12 years ago, they had RFPs that they never awarded. Clifton Park was the only bidder at that time. So it's been an interesting history with Town of Colony and the Stony Creek Reservoir, to say the least. So at this time, nothing further to report. As things change, certainly we'll let everybody know. But that's the current situation for the Town of Colony. Any other communications or announcements at this time?
I have one, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
I think, as most everyone has probably heard, I believe the Saratogian has discontinued the community news, which is unfortunate. Community news has been a great asset to our community as far as keeping residents informed. Obviously, it was a business decision, but specifically, Glenn Griffith, who did a lot of coverage in our community for this board and for all sorts of things going on in our community, I believe is no longer employed. And I just wanted to, as a board member, thank him for his years of service and dedication, not just to our town government, but to the community as a whole. I think Glenn approached his efforts in a very fair and balanced, very dedicated manner. And we appreciate what he has done in keeping the community informed. And he'll be missed, at least from my perspective, as both a resident and now as a town board member.
Yeah, Glenn's been a fixture in the town for a long time, worked for the Spotlight, and then I think he went straight from there to the community news, if I remember right. It was quite a few years ago, but he has been a fixture in the town for a long time. Somebody I think we've all spent quite a bit of time speaking with about town issues and sometimes county issues. So we're sorry he won't be here, at least tonight. Maybe I'm sure he's looking at other opportunities, and we wish him all the best in the future. So thank you. And the community news been around a very long time. It was the commercial news and the community news. Talk about a fixture in the town. I mean, decades. That paper has been active in the town of Clifton Park, southern Saratoga County as a whole. So yeah, it's definitely something the community will miss. But who knows, maybe there's new opportunities and a new, something new will take its place at some point, we'll see. But it won't be the commercial or community news, and that byline will no longer be here in town, which will be different. All right, we do have a public hearing this evening. I'll ask Teresa to read the legal notice as it appeared in the Gazette.
Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, notice of public hearing regarding proposed 3-month extension of a moratorium for the review and determination on land use applications for ground-mounted solar facilities. Please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Clifton Park will conduct a public hearing on July 6, 2021 at 7:05 p.m. in the Wood Memorial Meeting Room in the Town Office Building located at 1 Town Hall Plaza, Town of Clifton Park, County of Saratoga, State of New York, to consider a proposed local law extending the existing moratorium on the review or determination of ground-mounted solar facilities above 25 kilowatts of capacity within the town for an additional 90 days through October 11, 2021. The proposed legislation would supersede and suspend portions of the New York State town law, which set forth timeframes and default deadlines for such approvals and provide a relief mechanism through the town board. Copies of the proposed local law are posted at cliftonpark.org and are available for review in the town clerk's office during normal business hours. And this was inserted on June 29th.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll open the public hearing. I just want to ask John Scavo to come up and give us an update as to where the process stands at this point.
Thank you, Supervisor Barrett, town board members. The process to date is there is a draft document that's being reviewed and finalized internally, wordsmith, be released to the public within the next 30 days. That'll allow a comment period for us to schedule a public hearing on the draft legislation that ultimately, based on public comment, could be modified, finalized, and then presented back to this board for potential adoption. Some of the changes to date, just going over our planning efforts, was the town proactively in 2011 was one of the first communities in New York State to adopt ground-mounted solar legislation. However, in 2015, the state allowed for the first time community solar in New York State. So our code did not really address community solar. It fit under our ground-mounted solar definition, but there's been advances since 2015, and most notably the New York State Solar Guidebook released in 2020, and the New York State Model Solar Energy Law in 2016. And I will say that the New York State Solar Guidebook in 2020, Clifton Park was actually one of the partners and stakeholders in developing that document at the state level, based on our experiences of a decade, basically, of implementing ground-mounted solar arrays and community solar under our existing law. Some of the updates that we're looking to make is to model some of the standard definitions that are included in that document and accept it on a statewide practice. That includes dividing ground-mounted solar systems into a 3-tier system with tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 being what I would equate to what a homeowner would have to power or get credits back for their own individual consumption. Tier 2 and tier 3 provide power back to the grid that somebody can subscribe to and doesn't require the panels to be on your property to receive the tax credits, and they're much larger systems. Looking under new definitions for the review process under the planning board, it really is the same review process that we've been following under our code in the New York State Guidebook, but it's adding definitions within our code to basically provide predictability for applicants and landowners as to what that expectation is up front. We include definitions such as glare, farmland of statewide importance, prime farmland, a term for solar access, solar energy equipment definition, solar storage, battery, etc. One of the challenges is we have a definition for ground-mounted solar, but there's a perception by some that ground-mounted solar is a power plant in itself. The state and case law is, no, it's not a power plant. It's passively receiving the energy, capturing it from the sun, and then converting it into our AC alternating current back to the grid, and then it goes through a transformer that converts it back down to DC to levels that are acceptable in your home at 120 volts or 240 volts. With that, the only other thing I'd like to mention is we are also providing tables for ease of readability for setbacks, space, and bulk standards for the solar arrays, height, width dimensions, and installation of housing structures we're providing guidance for. We're also talking in terms of compatibility with adjacent uses, in terms of scaling, siting, design, lighting, and noise generation. What we found is there's very little, if any, noise generation that's audible from adjacent properties where these arrays have been installed, partly because, when somebody's doing a 30-acre array on 90 acres that they own, they're still so far away from an adjacent property owner, it's inaudible. We're also providing some guidance in terms of maximum surface area of the proposed installation in relation to the available lot size for the host parcel. This will ensure that prime farmland is still protected to a great extent, but provide property owners with the ability to supplement their income with a long-term solar lease. And what we find is it's a push and pull. If somebody's proposing on 60 acres to clear 15 acres of woods, what we're seeing on our USGS soils map is it's because the soil types weren't conducive to farming to begin with, which is why they were woods. So to what level, do we allow certain clearing to occur on sites to take advantage of soils that weren't conducive to agriculture while preserving the agricultural farmlands? And that's something that's important to the state too, allowing opportunities for agriculture to be preserved going forward. In addition to that, we just offer some guidance in terms of utility pole connections and driveway access to also minimize adjacent impacts and visibility impacts to adjacent property owners. That's it.
Well, thanks, John. I mean, there's no doubt as the dollars subsidizing solar projects in the industry have increased exponentially. Changes in the industry have accelerated with regard to technological advances, siting regulations. New York State has established a certain size of solar project where there would be no local involvement. Well, there might be a local involvement. You might be able to be on a committee, but that's about it. The state will decide if that project were to go forward. And I think they've lowered that standard.
It was 25 megawatts under Article 10, and then in 2020 there was an executive law. Don't remember it off the top of my head, but it basically followed Article 10 and lowered the threshold to 20 megawatts that solar providers can opt in, and it takes it out of the local planning board review, and it's strictly under the Public Service Commission's authority to approve. We can provide comments as an interested stakeholder, but we have no discretionary authority to approve or deny the project. And that executive order was actually proposed to be 10 megawatts and got negotiated up to 20 megawatts, but we can see how that needle is moving.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I know there's been a push in Albany by some to eliminate the local siting oversight of these projects. Whether that happens or when, who knows, but that's certainly been on the prioritization list for some in Albany. But that being said, we need to be as prepared as possible, and we have some history now with projects. And moving forward, as we've said many times here, the money subsidizing solar projects or any green energy project is only going to increase. And as it does, the pressure will continue to mount as far as these projects wanting to site in municipalities like Clifton Park. And that was one of the driving forces for our establishing the moratorium originally. And so I appreciate the work you've done on it so far, and we'll get down to a document that we can socialize publicly and invite comment, and at that point be in a better position to make a decision.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for John while he's up there?
I just had
Yes.
a few comments.
Yes.
First of all, John, I reviewed the draft. I think it's definitely some changes in the right direction. I think the definitions section is huge. As you mentioned, obviously I spent some time on the planning board. People would come, that power plant definition, applicants would come and they would try to interpret our code, which was pretty ambiguous, to whatever way would fit them. So one applicant would come and try to interpret it one way, and another would come in and try to interpret it a totally different way to get their own desired outcome. So I think what I'm seeing in the draft is going to make a lot of sense and really help the planning board going forward. We're not the only community struggling with where and how to utilize solar in our community. I think just today there was an article in the town of Alston also dealing with solar, proposed solar legislation. So this is something that a lot of communities in New York and throughout the country are dealing with. And I think for us, it makes sense to, now we have a draft, extend the moratorium to 3 months as we're, the purpose for tonight's hearing to really allow the residents to come and have an input, to go through the comment period, to come and speak, because it's, the outcome, what we do with that legislation is really going to have a lot of effect on, especially the western part of Clifton Park going forward. So I think it really makes sense to be thoughtful and take our time with this as we are. So thanks.
Very good. Any other comments, questions at this time? Okay, very good. With that, we'll open for public comment. If you'd like to speak on this matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask that you come forward, state your name and address for the record, and please keep it to 5 minutes or less. Would anybody like to speak on this matter? Yes, Joe.
I don't have much to say, but I think it's excellent that you...
Why don't you come up, Joe, so we can hear you, yeah?
And I'll tell you who I am.
For those that don't know,
Okay.
you are
For
infamous.
those that don't know, I am Joe Nile, and I'm one of your neighbors. I live at the Bentley, but I am here to compliment you on having this moratorium and on extending it. And I look forward to getting the details so that we can have comments on specific points. And you are exactly right that it is a big issue nationwide because the very nature of solar power is dilute and diffuse. And so it takes up a very important part of any community. It takes up big acreage for a very small and efficient type of energy and a very unreliable type of energy. So this is a big issue, and I'm happy that you are taking it up and are going to have public comment. And, because we do have to protect our land and that environmental resource that we have, and not cover and lose the benefit of even trees, vegetation, all those CO2 things that are taking CO2 out of the atmosphere. So I thank you all.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay. Any final comment before we press on here? All right, well, certainly we've spoken quite a bit about the subject in 2020, 2021, and we'll discuss it a lot more upcoming. So keep us apprised, John. Appreciate your efforts. Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing. Now I'd like to invite President of HVCC, Dr. Ransamy, who's here tonight. How are you, sir? Good to see you. Yes, please. And he has some exciting developments that he would like to talk to us about this evening. So it's an honor for you to be here.
Thank you so much, Supervisor, and to the town members. Thank you so very much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. We heard about solar today. You know, there's going to be a whole lot of people needed, you know, to put those solar systems up. I know a place that we train a lot of folks, right over at TechSmart. We train quite a lot of students in solar, for building solars from the ground up, and have been expanding on that program. Today I'm here to talk to you a little bit about TechSmart, as you know it. Today we refer to that site as HVCC North, and rebranding it because it's the addition of more space to provide more folks with the opportunity to support the Saratoga region. And so let me begin. We refer to the region as HVCC North, which includes the TechSmart building, as you know it. And I want to share with you some data that you see up on the screen there. Number one, you would see almost 1,700 students that are coming from these different regions, from Saratoga, Hamilton, Fulton, Warren, Washington. They come all the way down to the Troy region to take classes. Let me say this to you. In 2019, we have electrical construction down on our main campus. We have over 600 students that apply for 90 positions on the campus, 90 spaces that we could run. The rest of those students have to wait another year before they can get in, and maybe years after, because as you can tell, we couldn't serve all of these students. We opened up TechSmart. We're able to run 3 different sections, 3 different classes. The majority of those students were coming from the northern regions of Saratoga, none of them from any other place. To tell you the need that's out there. You saw that we have over 1,500 applications for seats in nursing. This is a perfect example. We could only take 100 students. What happens to the other 1,400 applicants? You see? What happens to them? They go on a standby. What happens to the next 1,500 that joins the 1,400 that's coming out? So you find the buildup is happening. We are here to say that along with all of this, we are here to figure out how can we serve our students and the regions as needed. As you know it, Saratoga itself is seeing a big boost in the healthcare industry and need lots of support. You say on our data here, it also shows that we're going to have about 2,000 students that we would be serving at our new site here that we intend to put up. And something that you should know, that one of the differences with Hudson Valley is that Hudson Valley students, when they graduate, tend to stay in the area and work. Almost 86% of them do. A lot of schools can't boast of that. So it's one of those institutions that graduate students and find the unemployment in the region where they are. That's a bonus to any state, any county. You see on our map that we have, next slide, on our map you would see that the hotspots, these are almost 8,000 health sciences that spans from different, from surgical to nursing to dental, you name it. All of these industries that are needed within just this northern region, over 8,000 of them. If you go down to the annual job openings in our skilled trade center, you'd see the numbers are very close by, also over 8,000 of them. That tells you a whole lot about what's going on in here. Health sciences, the list is on the next slide. It gives you the listing of all the different areas that are desperately needed within the northern region. Paramedics, respiratory care, dental hygiene. In the skilled trades, know this, very much needed right now. The electrical construction, I mentioned to you before, we can't even fill the class, the amount of applicants that we have right now. It's the same for every one of these skills areas and health science areas. These are folks who are applying to us. We have an enormous amount of students who are coming to us for these programs. Problem is, we have no space for them. So we planned on opening up the Saratoga TechSmart or HBCC North to help provide some stability to all of this. So renovations are currently being done in the TechSmart building to accommodate some of the requests that has come in from us. For example, Global Foundries, as you know, it is already expanding and is expecting over 1,000 new folks that are going to be coming down. But every one of the workers that are in there requires certain training before they can start. Day one on the job, they have to go through clean rooms. That costs that Global Foundries millions and millions of dollars every year for every half an hour it takes those students to walk through, to take those workers to walk through those clean rooms. We are building the clean room to do the training for Global Foundries so that they don't have to focus on that anymore, helping them to save millions and millions of dollars every year. The same would be for Regeneron, the same would be for GE. All of these are industries that require those kinds of specialized training. You would see that in TechSmart, we also, inside of this new TechSmart building, the reconstruction will include things for GE, for wind turbines. As you can tell, that the US is heavily invested in wind energy, heavily invested. Offshore wind expect to start from all the way from up in Massachusetts all the way down to South Carolina. The amount of jobs that are needed, it's only few schools in the state that actually are doing the training. And NYSERDA and many of the other industries have already selected HBCC to do this training. We just finished building a $1 million lab for the welding, and now we have to keep expanding on other areas in order to support the skills that are needed. We are here today because of limited space, so we intend to add on a new building next to that in the TechSmart region. This new construction will have many of the laboratories that provide the necessary training for all of the healthcare industries. This is the only way that we can meet the demands of what is required of us to put out to all of the healthcare industries right in Saratoga, just within the Saratoga region. So I must say to you that today, in any building and anything that is put down, whatever college like us, you know, if we build a building, it belongs basically to the county. It eventually is the county's own. And we have support already coming in to this building from Global Foundries, who just put in over $500,000 into the construction of it. We already have other companies as Global Foundries, as big as them, who are coming up with the same type of support for our building, which we can't announce anything just yet. But the fact is that at the end of the day, with all these companies providing support for HBCC and this building, the community is the one that gets the best of all of it, because it's the students who belong to this region who gets served and get to stay in this region with the jobs and the skills that are needed to perform those jobs. And I am here today to ask Saratoga County itself to support our building, to provide support just like any other building that is supported by, when we just finished one building. We just finished our FA program in Albany. We had support from the Albany County. When we finished our buildings in Rensselaer, we get support from the Rensselaer County, and I'm asking this county to do the same. I'm here today to present to you our new 14,000 square foot building that we're putting down next to TechSmart, which would become overall HBCC North, for your support, so that we can help provide the necessary needs of your community. I hope I did this in 5 minutes, did I?
Very good.
Now, the TechSmart building is beautiful, and it's in a terrific location for the county. It's right in the campus, very close to Global Foundries. So this building, just to be clear, would be a separate facility.
It's right next to it, right on the same, actually much closer than Global Foundries. So it's on the side that brings us even closer to the Global Foundries, right next to Tech Smart building.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Eventually, it will be HBCC's North Campus right there, probably full-blown, offering everything one day that Saratoga needs. And I already see the picture in my head. Football field, swimming pool, training for all the swimmers that's needed. And then every bit of the energy, as you know, that's a building where solar, geothermal, and all of it was built by the NYSERDA to support this real energy, that we heard about before. So, yes.
And, one thing that you mentioned, and you mentioned it up at presentations at the county as well, when we have the meetings with you at TechSmart, and you talk about the way that students attend HBCC, they learn a skill, whatever that skill might be, then they tend to stay here in our area. And that's a tremendous a positive cycle of training, and then having people that are ready to join the workforce, but they are also staying local.
Yeah, and so it's the quality of work that we do. We bring in industry to do the training. They're getting the skills that are needed to do the job. We are not focused on degrees and all these. We are focused on people who have skills that can do the jobs for the businesses that are out there. And that's really why you find when the state did their search to figure out how the students stay within the region, HBCC was at the #1 spot in the state, in the community college system.
And as we talked about the tech campus over the years and how it might progress.
Yes.
Certainly it's progressed very far at this point. But this type of a resource was always a part of that thinking, that if we had a resource that would grow over time, that would provide training, degrees, certifications in areas, skilled areas that are desperately needed in our communities. And there's many of them. Can you talk a little bit about, some of those high skilled areas that you have listed there?
Yeah.
Mainly, people that would be working in industrial type settings with skills such as welding and HVAC, so on and so forth.
Right, and so as you know today, when folks come in, and if you think about the wind energy that's out there right now, it's estimated that you're going to need about 44,000. Doreen Harris just gave that number. It was 44,000 workers that would be needed over the next 10 years. It's somewhere in the high range. Where are they going to get those workers from in the welding field? We just built a brand new lab simply because we were told by the port that it is needed. You better get on board. We put the lab down, close to $1 million lab. But how much folks are we able to put out in the lab? 14 stations inside of a lab. Where does that put us? 14 students comes in, work all day. The lab is in use. We may be able to do 28 students per program for 2 programs.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough. And the industry that's outside there, and before these kids could even finish, guess what? They don't even sometimes get to finish their programs. They're picked up by companies already. So one of the biggest problems we have is getting people to finish the program and get the full skill before they can leave. Many of our programs are like that. Electrical construction, mentioned just now, kids don't get to finish. The overhead lines workers that we have. We have companies all the way in Florida, North Carolina, FPL, who comes all the way up here and grab our students to take them back down there. And National Grid is working closely with us to try to hold on to the very kids that's inside of it. So they're all employed probably on day 1 of the job, simply because they're so needed. And so, we just made a pledge to most of these companies. If you want to keep those kids, from day 1, advertise on the newspapers. You put out the advertisement that if you go to HBCC and you finish with us, you have a job with us, and probably sponsor them through the program. And we have a lot of companies who do that with us right now, see? So welding, and you pick them, electrical construction, mechatronics, which is one of the biggest ones for this region. There's all the skills, a combination of all the engineerings that are needed. Those are some of our top programs. We have our Advanced Manufacturing Center. That's a center that probably we need to split up and bring another section up here one day to join our Saratoga campus. But there's such a great opportunity for us because Saratoga is the growing population. We see a lot of young folks are coming in to work in Global Foundries, and that tells you that when you have so many young people coming in, they're going to be young families. So why not prepare for them now? In 10, 15 years, they're going to be ready for college. Why wait till then and have them trek down to Troy when there's no need to? If we have a campus that's ready for them right here. And that's our plan, to put forth a really functional campus here in the Saratoga region.
Oh, that's fantastic. The forward thinking that you and your team are putting into practice is much appreciated by the municipalities in Saratoga County and people of all ages that are looking for a new skill and wanting to advance their careers. And I think you're right. I think a lot of these companies, they'll finish the training, right? If somebody just shows an inclination towards a certain skill or industry, that's enough for them.
Absolutely.
Because there is such a shortage of workers.
And things have changed. My daughter, I grew up always telling her, you got to go to school, you got to get a law degree, and you need nothing else. But now I realize that the real jobs of the future is the skills jobs. It's not those jobs that I once thought they were. The future is in all of these skills areas. And so now trying to retrain the thinking is what's in there. And so we're trying to show we have all of the supervisors, commissioners, all of them on board with the idea that if you put the program here, we're going to send our kids right there. So we're hearing from all the different, Yeah, you should. You should. You know what?
Can you retrain lawyers? Do you have that kind of program?
We will scholarship you too, because guess what? Our foundation students right here, they'll scholarship you too. Yeah, but thank you so very much for your.
Well, and you'll be up in Saratoga County in a couple of weeks, right?
Yes, I will.
Talk about this as well. Any questions for Dr. Ramsamy?
I just asked a question. When would this campus be built? For the regular college, when do you project that? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Well, once this building goes down, we were almost at the point where we can have some of the health science programs running up here. I would imagine with just a few more spaces, Middle States we have to create certain space like a library, student services, and those functional areas, advising and support. Once all of that comes in about another 2 years or so, I'd say a year after the building goes down, we can then have work through the Middle State accreditation to have full-fledged programs on there. But one step at a time, I know that once we get the building done, then the next step is the accreditation process to make sure that Saratoga has a full-blown campus. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you so very much,
Thank
all
you.
of you. All right.
I look forward to our continued partnership.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. All right, we do have several resolutions this evening. Teresa, if you could read those, please.
A resolution adopting a local law extending the moratorium on ground-mounted solar arrays within Clifton Park. Whereas by local law number 2 of 2021, the town board established a 6-month moratorium on the process of furthering applications for ground-mounted solar facilities in the R1, R3, CR, HR, and HM zones. And whereas on July 6, 2021, the town board held a public hearing on a proposal to extend the existing moratorium an additional 90 days for such facilities under existing anticipated hosting capacity of regional utilities consistent with the best interest of the community, consistent with current New York State policy, procedures, and economic incentives. Now therefore be it resolved that the pursuant to Municipal Home Rule Law 10, Chapter 10, the town board hereby adopts local law number 5 of 2021 to extend the moratorium until October 11th, 2021, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is directed to file same with the Office of the Secretary of State to provide appropriate notice of same, and that a local law be posted prominently on cliftonpark.org. A resolution approving an agreement with MJ Engineering and Land Surveying for engineering and design services required for a shovel-ready upgrades to infrastructure in certain sewer districts. Whereas the collection system manager, Michael O'Brien, has identified several sewer infrastructure projects for preventative maintenance and rehabilitation, and whereas the supervisor has directed the sewer department to be in a position to apply for and efficiently administer state or federal funding for infrastructure projects that have been identified and designed under funding criteria, and whereas Mr. O'Brien has recommended that MJ Engineering be retained at a cost not to exceed $79,500 to provide engineering and design services in support of developing plans and specifications for making the site shovel-ready, as well as advertising and review of responses to a request for bids. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute the attached agreement for engineering and design services associated with the project to be paid no more than $79,500 from the accounts as listed on the attached Schedule A. A resolution approving an agreement with NJ Engineering and Land Surveying for engineering and design services required for the installation of emergency standby generators in certain sewer districts. Whereas the collection systems manager, Michael O'Brien, has identified several sewer pump stations that are in need of emergency backup power. And whereas the town anticipates state federal infrastructure funding to be made available in the future for shovel-ready projects involving such infrastructure. And whereas Mr. O'Brien has recommended that MJ Engineering be hired at a cost not to exceed $53,400 to provide engineering and design services in support of developing plans and specifications for making the site shovel-ready, including completions of electrical upgrades, as well as advertising and review of responses to a request for bid. Now therefore be it resolved, the supervisor is authorized to execute the attached agreement for engineering and design services associated with the project to be paid $9,000 from Clifton Park Sewer District Number 1 Engineering and $44,400 from Clifton Park Sewer District Number 2 for a total amount not to exceed $53,400. A resolution authorizing a change order to reduce the original contract for the sewer main repairs Oakwood Boulevard project with Carter Construction, resulting in a savings of $50,076.16. Whereas by resolution number 159 of 2021, the town board authorized Carter Construction for sewer repairs in Clifton Park Sewer District Number 2. And whereas the highway superintendent, Dan Bull, has authorized paving of the project site under the current highway department paving contract with the transfer of funds to the sewer department to offset costs of the paving, resulting in a reduction of the contract with Carter Construction of $50,076.16. And whereas collection system manager Michael O'Brien has submitted a request to approve final payment and close out the current contract with Carter Construction for the project. Now therefore be it resolved that the change order decreasing the contract price for Oakwood Boulevard Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project in the Clifton Park Sewer District Number 2 is approved, and be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to pay for the paving from Clifton Park Sewer District Number 2 sewer contractual equipment in an amount not to exceed $50,000. A resolution authorizing the sale of equipment declared surplus by the town board and authorizing the Buildings and Grounds Department to sell the surplus equipment at public auction. Whereas the Buildings, Parks and Recreation Director Daniel Clemens has identified a 2004 Chevrolet Tahoe as surplus property since it is not economically to repair, and whereas based on the recommendation of Mr. Clemens, the town board declares the 2004 Chevrolet Tahoe as surplus. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes the Buildings and Grounds Department to sell the surplus equipment as is through an upcoming online public auction. A resolution authorizing the agreement for the replacement of the HVAC circulator pump at the town hall by Hostler and Jekyll Corporation. Whereas the Director of Buildings, Parks and Recreation, Daniel Clemens, requested quotes for the replacement of one hot-cold water circulation pump and related piping and valves for the HVAC system at One Town Hall Plaza. And whereas 2 quotes were received by June 24th, 2021, and whereas Hostler and Jekyll Corporation Mechanical Contractors, 9 Craig Boulevard, Rensselaer, New York, submitted the low bid for the contract for a circulator pump in the amount of $9,920. And whereas Mr. Clemens recommends the project be completed by Hostler, Jekyll, and lowest, and that being the lowest quote. Now therefore be it resolved that the Director of Buildings, Parks and Recreation is authorized to sign an agreement for the project in an amount not to exceed $9,920 to be paid from town hall equipment. A resolution authorizing the residents of the cul-de-sac of Glenwood Drive in the Country Knolls subdivision to conduct a block party on August 21st, 2021, whereas the residents of the Country Knolls subdivision plan to conduct a block party within the subdivision on August 21st, 2021 from 12 to 10 p.m. and have requested permission to use the cul-de-sac of Glenwood Drive to Morningside Drive for their party activities. Now therefore be it resolved that the town highway superintendent recommends that the request be approved for the use of a portion of Glenwood Drive, August 21st, 2021 from 12 noon to 10 p.m. to be used for party activities, so long as those activities do not block off the streets and make sure emergency vehicles can gain access to the street if needed. And be it further resolved that the residents shall be responsible for all cleanup activities on town property or on the street right of way resulting from the social activity. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the applicable fire department and ambulance force, the sheriff's department, and the state police. A resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 30-yard and 1 20-yard capacity roll-up containers for the use of the transfer station. Whereas quotes were received by the Director of Buildings, Parks and Recreation, Daniel Clemens, and whereas the lowest conforming quote for the 2 steel 30-yard roll-up containers was submitted by Valley Enterprises Container LLC, 111 Eagleville Road, Blanchard, Pennsylvania, in an amount not to exceed $12,310. And whereas the lowest conforming quote for the 20-yard roll-up container was Dumpgate, was also submitted by Valley Enterprises Container LLC in an amount not to exceed $6,495. And whereas Mr. Clemens recommends that the bid for the containers be awarded to Valley Enterprises, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby awards the bid for the containers to Valley Enterprise Container LLC as quoted and authorizes the department to issue a purchase order for the purchase of the roll-up containers as specified in the attached quotations at a cost not to exceed $18,805 to be budgeted for the general fund solid waste management station equipment. And be it further resolved that the comptroller is authorized to increase revenues from general fund sale of equipment by $18,805 and increase expenditures of general fund convenience transfer station equipment by $18,805 to balance the budget.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Yeah, that's it.
Yes, that's it.
Are there any questions on the resolutions? Okay. We'll go to the first one. Please read the heading, Teresa.
Resolution number 162 of 2021, a resolution adopting a local law extending the moratorium on ground-mounted solar arrays within Clifton Park.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mrs. Flood. We heard from John Scavo, who's quarterbacking that effort and study, and requesting a little bit more time. And, so this is an important initiative, and we'll have a draft document in the next few weeks, right, John? Any discussion?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 163 of 2021, a resolution approving an agreement with MJ Engineering and Land Survey for engineering and design services required for shovel-ready upgrades to infrastructure in certain sewer districts.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Morelli, second by Ms. Wallowitz. Michael?
Yeah, this is,
First we want to hear how the new truck's going.
that's great.
Spending a lot of time in Crescent Estates, right?
It
In that
is.
general area down Exit 8,
Yes,
former
sir.
Crescent Waste.
Yes, they've been operating it almost every day, cleaning and TVing Crescent Estates neighborhoods, Shirewood.
Yeah.
They're gonna be jumping over to the southern part of below Crescent Road next week. And the camera's keeping up, but the camera takes a lot longer, so the jetter's moving right along.
Good,
So yeah, so it's going well.
very good. All right, so Now, you have some projects prioritized here, as the next, phase, if you will, of improvements. Can you talk a little bit about these projects?
Yes, there's many. So what we did this spring per your direction is, put together a list of projects that we've been wanting to take care of or we know need to be taken care of. And in anticipation of potentially there being some funds available to pay for these things. So some of the big ones are, Brookwood. I don't have that information in front of me. 1 second. Give me 1 second, because I have all this stuff. Okay.
Oh, I've got the emergency generators.
The generators, that's the next section, right? Yeah, I can talk about the generators. Obviously, we took over Crescent Waste last July, and none of those pump stations, except for one, came with a generator, and that generator is going to be replaced. It's an old trailer that's dilapidated. So right there, we've been doing this with all the pump stations we take care of, kind of a three-phased approach to having these pump stations firmed up for power outages, storms, that kind of thing. So if power goes out, the generator's there to take over that. As part of that work, if the generator failed, we have a way to hook up another generator that we have in a trailer. We only have one, but normally we don't have our generators fail. And then on top of that, we have a bypass connection that we put in. So if all else fails, or if the, part of the project is working with the generator or something like that, we can actually manually pump around. So with this new sewer district, obviously one of the biggest priorities is to get all that stuff shored up right away, because that is for us the biggest nightmare when the power goes out. Because these pump stations, they don't.
Yeah, talk about what happens when the power goes out.
Well, the sewage backs up. It'll fill up these pump stations like it would your house in your toilet if it's not going down. And then eventually it starts overflowing, and usually it's the people nearby who are the lowest. So the potential for huge losses is there. And it's a service that we can't shut down. So we can't tell people, hey, we're turning off the toilets, be ready. It's one of those things that just keeps coming. So people don't tend to really care that the power's out. They just flush their toilets.
And that's why we've always, like you said, installed this backup measure through all the sewer systems that we've accepted through abandonment over the years.
And not to mention from a public service standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint. We can't be discharging sewage over ground. It's a violation of federal and New York state law. Immediately when it happens, we have to report it. It does happen. We have failures here and there that happen, and we work with those agencies. But obviously, they're all looking for us to have generators. There's grants for generators. There's all these things that come out. But when we inherited Crescent, one of the glaring priorities was generators. There's also areas in the town that have been kind of waiting to be fixed. Brookwood, Valencia, our old sewers in Clifton Knolls that are always trouble for us, but we had other priorities ahead of that. Pardo Rio was failing. We started from the bottom up in Clifton Knolls, so this would be a continuation of that. So Valencia goes up to Brookwood across from Yorkshire Park, and it would take care of all that. There's a low section at the end of Grooms Road that goes to the county pump station that has really started giving us a hard time. It's a short section from the end of Clifton Knolls to the county pump station. They call it the CK pump station, kind of below Zamora Court on Grooms Road, that we need to replace, because that is all the work we did on Valdepenez, and South Barney now is starting to back up because of that situation there. It's odd. It just is like a flat pipe, and something must have shifted underground there, and it slowed everything up. So we have one of those manhole monitors out there. We keep an eye on it, and we do regular maintenance on it. But a priority would be to get that pipe relayed. So that's in here.
Did the very large project that we completed on Par del Rio factor into that as well? Or is that completely separate?
It's separate. It it's kind of odd. That all came down to Valencia and headed over to Zamora and discharges to the county there. They both end up in the same place,
Yeah.
but the lower section, the Val de Penez, South Barney is actually handled there. All that, there's kind of a line if you drew it across Valencia. Everything there, what goes over to Zamora.
Okay.
So now, when we inherited the system, the previous operator told us about all sorts of trouble areas in Crescent Waste, one of them being on Merrill Drive. That's just a flat sewer. It doesn't flow. I mean, it has to flow, but it's forced to flow, you know. Pressure builds up and just pushes through. That needs to be relayed, because that's just a place where material builds up. We have to clean it. We clean it, I'd say, every three months. The residents all have stories. They all tell us, you haven't been out here yet. They're usually, everybody's got their eyes on it. So it's an area that we want to fix. Again, that's the same with Mystic Lane. In Green Meadow Drive is a Clifton Park Sewer District. It's the last pump station in the old Van Patten system that needs a generator. But it also needs to have some just general infrastructure put in there, like rails for the pumps. When we have to pull a pump there, a man has to go down, stand in the bottom of the well, unbolt the pumps. We hook it to a cable, we hoist it out, and that's just old school. That's how we did it 12, 13 years ago. We fixed most of that stuff. So that's all part of this. Is the residents there know that a generator is potentially coming there, but it's a very it's a large station for the volume that it receives. We know that when the power goes out, it's the last place we have to go. If the power's going to be out for more than 12 hours, it's a priority. It becomes a priority. But we've been waiting to do this station to the last one because we have more based on just their usage and volume. So that's the Green Meadow pump station. Gilder Place and Dutch Meadows, their pump stations, all the rails are falling apart. We got to fix that stuff. There's a long section on Gilder Place that's all AC pipe that's failing. That would be good to look at. I think it's important for the board to know that we're putting all this together for the good chance of funding for some of this stuff. Well, all of this stuff we can put on a shelf and have it. So when the funds are available, the engineering's already done, because there's a lot of stuff in here. Not everything's going to be able to be done. I think with
what I wanted Mike to do was basically prioritize things that are of a more time-sensitive nature. And along those lines, as he explained the needs in these particular areas, as he highlighted these individual projects, it became clear that time is of the essence, and that we should be prepared and at least do the upfront work to make sure we can go to bid and understand the full scope of what needs to be done before something larger occurs. So that was the impetus behind doing some of this planning. Obviously, the next stage is getting that work done.
All the pipe work in these areas are all being evaluated for lining also.
Yeah.
Lining's not always a solution, but it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So we'll know as we move forward.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else that you want to add, Mike?
No.
For anything on the agenda tonight? Doesn't have to be for that particular.
Well, yeah, I'd like to thank Dan Bull for working with the sewer department on the Oakwood Drive. That $50,000 change order is a real good deal for the residents of that area. I think, well, in general, for the people of Crescent Waste. And, when we bid this, there was an emergency out there, and the contractor obviously wasn't generous with his paving budget. He just put a number in there that, was reasonable but made him money. And working with the highway department, they get a much more competitive price per ton for asphalt. I don't really know how it all works, but I know the numbers right away were glaringly better. And working with Dan, we've been able to look at the Oakwood from Fenimore down to Archer, where we did the work. And instead of just doing a trench, we're doing the whole road, which would not have been able to be done in that original contract. We were just proposing to do a trench, which,
Much better final product for the residents.
yeah, no matter how you do it, those trenches, they're always trouble. They either don't heave in the winter, so everybody has like a valley in their road, or,
Well, they don't settle.
yeah, or they don't settle and they're a big dome in the road, you know, so by doing the whole road, these people have been going through the ringer on time, just with everything, the stone, it's kind of similar to Blue Spruce, just the way the cards.
Hard Del Rio.
But when it's all done, they're gonna have a great road. So, so I just wanted to say that, that's the third resolution, and it's working out.
Yeah, when you're putting out a bid for, you know, million plus in paving, typically you'll get a better price than a one-off,
Yes,
you
sir.
know, in that situation. So I think it's just a matter of economies of scale.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the in a project for Crescent, the former Crescent Waste, that was very time sensitive.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Any questions for Mike on any of that stuff? What's that?
Can you just tell me, what does lining mean?
So
mine.
what they'll do is, instead of like digging up traditionally and replacing a section of pipe, they can actually mechanically like extrude a resin line liner through that pipe, and they cure it. And it's not, lining's a bad word, because it doesn't actually line the pipe and coat it and make it, you know, that pipe good. It actually is a pipe in a pipe. So once that's done and cured, the old pipe is useless. It could rot away and disappear, and the piece that was put through there and cured is the new pipe.
Is it the same diameter as the old pipe?
It'll be a little less, but what it does is it makes up the difference in friction coefficients. It's actually slicker, so even though the area is smaller, the fluid flows faster.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's really neat to see them do it.
Yeah, we've used it with good success for stormwater as well as sanitary sewer projects. So, all right, Teresa. Teresa.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, you can. We're about to vote on the resolution. Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilmember Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 164 of 2021, a resolution approving an agreement with MG Engineering and Land Surveying PC for engineering and design services required for the installation of emergency standby generators for certain sewer districts.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mrs. Flood. Discussion. Okay, Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 165 of 2021, a resolution authorizing a change order to reduce the original contract for the sewer main repairs Oakwood Boulevard project with Carter Construction, resulting in a savings of $50,076.16.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Wallowitz, second by Mr. Morelli. Any further discussion on this item or questions from Mike? Okay, Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 166 of 2021, a resolution authorizing the sale of equipment declared surplus by the town board and authorizing the Buildings and Grounds Department to sell these surplus equipment at public auction.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Flood, second by Ms. Wallowitz.
This Tahoe was assigned over at the Barney Road Golf Course. The superintendent was using it over there. It was due for inspection. When we went through the truck, it needed a lot of front end work, and you had some emissions codes, and worst of all, that the frame of the truck was rusted in several spots where it couldn't really be repaired and therefore can't pass New York State inspection. So we've used it right up to the last bit of rust, and I think it's time to see if we can get a couple $100 out of it on the
Oh, who knows, maybe a little more.
And now we'll work at it. We'll get it up there.
Now, you have an update on the delivery time for the trucks we've ordered?
Yes,
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been quite a while, so I reached out to the dealer and they told me it would be late July, early August at this point. The thing that, all the new vehicles are delayed, as everybody knows, you can't find anything on the lots. But then these are also specialized vehicles, so once they get in, they have to go to an upfitter and get the dump bodies put on, service bodies put on, snow plows put on. So it takes a while to get it. Then it takes another 4 to 6 weeks to add the extra equipment on. But that's the latest info, late July, early August.
All right, well, that'll free up another truck, so
Yes, indeed.
definitely want to take delivery as soon as possible. But I realize that is out of your hands. Any questions for Dan? We did get full money's worth out of this vehicle, as we always do. Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 167 of 2021, a resolution authorizing an agreement for the replacement of the HVAC circulator pump at Town Hall by Postler and Jacko Corporation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Flood, second by Mr. Morelli. Oh, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
Mrs. Standard.
Thank you.
Second by Mr. Morelli. Dan, we had a little issue here.
Yeah, this building, the heating and air conditioning are both done through hot water or chilled water, depending on the time of year. And there's piping and there's little coil units throughout the building. So there's a circulator pump that pumps that hot or cold water around, right over here on the other side of the reception desk. Luckily for us, we have two. There's in case something goes down, one of them is broken, can't be fixed, so we're running on one to keep us going for this summer. But it's nice to have two for just exactly this reason. The thing breaks. If we didn't have a second one, two in line, there'd be no air conditioning in this building right now. It would be an emergency type of situation. It'd be a lot more. So this way we were able to put out an RFP and get some good competitive pricing. B&J has done a lot of work for us. They're our regular service provider. They have our contract with that right now. I'm sure they'll do a heck of a job to get it up and going before heat time.
All right. Yeah, unfortunately, it won't be long.
No, I'm quick.
Just as you get used to this warmer weather, it goes away. Any questions for Dan? Okay, Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 168 of 2021, a resolution authorizing the residents of the cul-de-sac of Glenwood Drive in the Country Knoll subdivision to conduct a block party on August 21st, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Ms. Wallowit. Dan?
Yep, nothing crazy, just neighbors wanting to get together and have a summer bash. They didn't have it last year and they've had it many years beforehand, so they're really looking forward to getting things back to normal. We just said that they just got to keep a lane open at all times for emergency personnel just in case. No, that's about it. Anytime we close off a road for an event, it has to be done through a town board resolution. So here we are.
Very
Yeah,
good.
there's not
Any, oh, yes, Mr. Morelli.
There's not a fee for this or anything like that.
No. Are you proposing one?
No.
That sounds fun.
Just asking who wanted to go.
August 21st.
All right, Teresa.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 169 of 2021, a resolution authorizing the purchase of two 30-yard and one 20-yard capacity roll-up containers for the use at the transfer station. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mrs. Flood. Dan, why do we need these?
Yeah, we have several different sizes and types of roll-off containers at the transfer station. In the last year or so, we bought compactor boxes, and then just earlier this spring, we bought 40-yard boxes. These are 30. Some of them fit in the recycling are for taller ones. 30 are the shorter ones that go in like the furniture. And our inventory was getting to be very rusted and in bad shape. Matter of fact, there was a lot of them sitting out back that were just absolutely useless. They were junk. So we scrapped them all. We loaded them up on the truck, took them down to the scrap yard, and we got a bunch of money for it. And we also auctioned off the old roll-off truck. So we got $25,000 for that, and all the old junk boxes were down. We got close to $8,000 in scrap metal from all the stuff that we cleaned up down there. So obviously some of those are so bad. This is why we need to replace and get the two 30s. And the 20 is basically like a dump truck body, so we can use the roll-off truck as a dump truck. It gives us some versatility in that vehicle.
Yeah, that's good. All right. right, any questions for Dan? All right, Teresa?
Councilwoman Flood? Yes. Councilwoman Sandor?
Yes.
Councilman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowa?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay. We'll go to public privilege. If you'd like to speak on a town matter, please raise your hand. We'll ask that you come forward, state your name and address for the record, and please keep it to 5 minutes or less. Yes? Got a question?
I did. I'll ask the question directly to who I was intended for, but now I have a new question. When a community member has a question on one of the resolutions, when is it expected that they can ask questions or make commentary if it's not right before voting?
You can ask the question now at public privilege.
The vote is already done, so I meant, like, we were talking about resolutions, I had questions on the resolutions before they were voted on, so I thought that was the appropriate time. If that's not the appropriate time, when is? After the vote is done?
Whatever you would like, but, you know, we're discussing the resolutions and taking action. So, but go ahead, you can.
No, I'm good. I will ask the question directly, but my question now is, and I'm still not understanding. I raised my hand and asked to ask a question, hoping to get the question in before the vote was made. And was told to wait because we were voting. So I'm just trying to understand in future situations, when is the appropriate time for me to raise my hand and ask a question on a resolution?
You can ask a question now.
In future resolutions?
You can ask a question now.
So you don't want to answer that question, fair. Thank you.
Oh, I just said you can answer the question now. Joe?
Yeah.
Or Joe? How you doing? Yes, come on up.
I've learned my lesson.
We're just gonna ask you to do that anyway.
I just want to say that the median on the Clifton Country Road is much improved.
Yeah.
We have the nice locust trees, we have some rose bushes, you have some nice greenery, and that was very nice. I do have one more suggestion, and that is that there is a big dead tree on the corner of Wall Street and Clifton Country Road. It's a sizable dead tree, and it's been there for, I don't know, several years.
What side of the road is it on, Joe?
Well, as
Is
you
it on the
are going,
Bentley side or the other?
as you're coming from 146 and going to Wall Street, and therefore you're, you know, going that way towards the east or towards the south, I guess. Yeah, south. Anyways, it's right there on your right. It's on that side. And it's a large tree, and so it's probably a hazard, but it probably wouldn't. There's nobody lives there. There's some geese there. I might knock one of them down.
Well,
But if there was a
you don't want
car
that to happen.
going by, it might,
You don't want that to happen.
it might dent the top.
Yeah.
But the main problem with it is it's very aesthetically unappealing, I think, because my daughter brings it up every time she visits me. Maybe she, I don't know. So it's a suggestion that you could look into
We'll take a
it,
look.
find out. Yes, you know about it.
I know exactly about it.
No.
It is a tree on private property, but it has been impacting the road and the sidewalk there. So I did reach out to the developer, and I'm waiting back for writing just for them to say, yeah, go ahead and make it safe. But when it comes to trees like that, especially.
Is that on DCG property?
It's on,
It must be
Windsor.
Windsor.
And what?
Windsor Development.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought also it would have been on the right of way.
It is, but we still like to reach out to people and let them know before we do.
Oh, okay, it is on the right of way.
Yeah, as soon as you start dealing with people's trees, we like to give them a heads up and say, hey, this is what we see, this is what the community's seeing, do you mind if we take care of it, and just keep them in the loop.
It would
So-
be good to take it down. And just one last note, I do have a few articles here that I ran off. I will, if you're interested in reading them, I will read the titles that may dampen your interest, or it may increase your interest, I don't know. But the one is called Why Wind and Solar Energy Are Doomed to Failure.
Mhm.
Now, it might perk your interest, or you may not wish to hear. The other is Electric Vehicles on Collision Course with Reality.
Mhm.
And both of those are based on an interview with Robert Bryce, who has been an expert on energy for some time and has published books. I just picked up one of his books today at the Clifton Park Library. And the third article is really just a news article from Chicago, where they had, because we talk about lithium batteries all the time with green energy, and they had an explosion there, and they don't know what to do with it because it's lithium batteries and you can't put water on them, and it's burning out of control and so on. And they had 1,000 tons of them. That's a lot of lithium.
Wow.
So if anybody would like to read any of these,
Sure.
let me know.
Yeah. How many copies do you have? I can make copies.
Huh?
I can make copies.
Oh, I
Or-
make one for each.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just don't want to impose.
Oh, that's
Thank you, Joe. This is the electric vehicles.
Oh, okay, here goes I get mixed up with the paperwork. That's the, they have graphs in them, and I even used my colored ink.
Wow. You gotta take them now. Color ink after all.
I don't know what I'm going to do now.
Whatever it is over there. Well, so far I have two and they're different. How about that? Is that a good start?
Must be doing something.
All right, well, if you have a third that's different.
Yeah, I have, does everybody have why wind and
Yes.
solar energy are doomed to fail?
Yes, and then we have electric vehicles.
You do not.
And what's the third one?
And, so you should have why wind and solar are doomed to failure.
Electric vehicles on collision.
And, time for enviros to take their lithium. And the third one is electric vehicles on collision course.
Sorry, the time for enviros, did you say? That's the one we don't have.
Electric
Yes, I
vehicles.
have it.
No, we have the electric vehicles. You said there was time for enviros or something?
Yeah.
That's the one, lithium. We don't have that one.
The batteries.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
you can use lithium
Probably in a different form though.
Okay, well, anyways, that's,
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
reading, material. I still have two electric, vehicles on collision.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
I'll take another one, Joe, so I can share it with my green committee.
Well, this is electric vehicles.
Yep, I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can share, that I don't have to make an extra copy.
Everybody set?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
I'm missing
Electric
one.
vehicle? Huh?
I think I'm missing the one in your hand.
Did you,
Electric vehicle.
you want to speak to him?
Thank you, sir.
No, gentleman here.
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
No, I'm fine.
okay, all right.
I got still one electric vehicle.
Neil Simpson.
I was thinking Jeff one.
You can read now, he has glasses. All right.
A motion to adjourn. Second?
Second by Mrs. Standard.
Councilwoman Flood?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morelli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walloway?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you.
What did you do with the